A glass cannon in gaming and in media overall is generally defined as a character with high offensive capabilities but low defensive capabilities. If you think about a literal glass cannon, it's powerful since it's a cannon, but it's fragile since it's made of glass, making it capable of dealing a lot of damage to opponents, but not being able to take hits very well. This is the kind of Pokemon archetype I'll be analyzing in this video, and specifically why they don't work in the competitive format of VGC doubles, but may work in Smogon singles formats. First, let's establish what I'm considering a glass cannon Pokemon, starting off with the glass part. Low HP and defenses are the most obvious place to start, so let's set a ballpark number of where these combined stats should lie to be weak enough to be considered glass. For defense and special defense, 80 is around where they start to get decent, so let's say 80 for those two. Since HP scales different from the rest of the stats, we can go a bit lower, so let's say 70, giving us a total of 230. Anything around or below 230 is not necessarily glass, but is approaching glass territory. Remember, this is just a ballpark number. While HP and defenses are certainly part of the equation, let's also look at typing, another integral part of a Pokemon's competitive viability. 4x weaknesses are some of the most detrimental aspects towards a Pokemon's ability to stay alive, as even Pokemon with sky-high defenses like Aggron and Bastiodon will fall over from one Earthquake or close combat. Even if a Pokemon doesn't have a 4x weakness, too many regular weaknesses will make a Pokemon volatile in more matchups, as the chance of an opponent having a super effective move is much higher. Thus, any Pokemon with a 4x weakness, or 6 or more weaknesses total, will also be approaching glass territory. Moving on to the cannon part, let's look at attack, special attack, and speed. While there are definitely slow Pokemon that hit hard, like Ursaluna and Ice Rider Calyrex, where these Pokemon lack in speed, they make up for in HP and defenses. Glass cannons, on the other hand, pretty much have to be fast, because if they weren't fast, they would either have those stats allocated more towards defenses, therefore not being glass, or they get screwed over entirely and have those stats allocated to neither, therefore not being a cannon. Anyway, for speed, I think around 115 is where things start to get pretty fast. For attack and special attack, a Pokemon doesn't need both of these to be high, just one of them. I'm gonna go with 115 as well for this category, which may seem a bit low, but again, this is just a ballpark number, and it fittingly totals to 230, the same total as HP and defenses. So anything around or above 230 is not necessarily a cannon, but is approaching cannon territory. After doing a quick command in an Excel spreadsheet and sorting through the Pokemon that fit this rough criteria, we can start to narrow our focus on what is considered a glass cannon, and then really get into why they don't work in the competitive format of VGC. Reason number 1. Glass cannons tend to lack reliable spread damage, meaning that they'll really only be able to KO one opponent at a time. If you look at glass cannons like Weavile, Sneasler, Blaziken, and Iron Valiant, you'll notice that none of them have reliable stab spread damage. While it's not absolutely necessary to have spread damage in doubles, if single target damage is the only thing you're offering offensively, it won't be enough to keep up with the fast-paced nature of double battles. It doesn't matter how much damage you can potentially deal if you'll fall apart in one Extreme Speed or Aqua Jet. It would also help if these Pokemon got any kind of redirection or partner healing, but they do not, limiting their role even more. Reason number 2. Having many weaknesses gets exacerbated when there are double the amount of opponents on the field at a time. Fighting, ice, and ground are some of the most common 4x weaknesses, and every team is pretty much guaranteed to have at least one of those move types. Like I said in reason number 1, it doesn't matter how hard you can hit if your defenses are low enough that you'll fall over in one move. Examples of this include Iron Boulder with 6 weaknesses, Iron Moth with a 4x ground weakness and 3 other regular weaknesses, Weavile with a 4x fighting weakness and 5 other regular weaknesses, and Enamorus and Iron Valiant with 5 regular weaknesses. Reason number 3. The duplicate item clause in VGC means that multiple Pokemon cannot hold the Choice Scarf or Focus Sash at once, both common items used on glass cannons. Choice Scarf is the go-to item if you want to be fast, and Focus Sash is the go-to item if your goal is surviving long enough to be able to set up. Despite VGC having significantly fewer restrictions than Smogon overall, there are a few restrictions that doubles players need to account for, one of them being the item clause. In singles, you probably won't want to have more than 2 glass cannons on your team anyway, but in doubles, they tend to hog the Choice Scarf and Focus Sash item, meaning that you won't have these for any of your other Pokemon that might use them for other purposes. like Whimsicott and Smeargle using the Focus Sash to stay alive long enough to support its partner, or Annihilate using the Choice Scarf to do an immediate final Gambit trade. Reason number 4. The prevalence of Fake Out and doubles disrupts both the ability for glass cannons to set up and breaks Focus Sashes, reducing survivability. Fake Out is essentially non-existent in singles, so glass cannons are used to being able to set up and keep their Focus Sash intact for when they really need it. While entry hazards in singles can also disrupt this, if you're planning on using a Focus Sash or Sturdy user, you generally come prepared with a hazard remover too. With either Incineroar or Rillaboom being on nearly every team, the chances that you'll run into Fake Out on any given game is very high, which can completely spoil Glass Cannon's ability to set up and stay alive. So those are the main reasons why Glass Cannons are generally unsuccessful in VGC, but there are 2 Glass Cannons I have intentionally been excluding from the discussion that actually have had success in VGC, which are Kartana and Chien-Pao. These Pokemon's combined attack and speed stats top the charts for Pokemon with a combined HP, defense, and special defense stat under 230. Let's start out with Kartana, the only one of the 2 not available in Scarlet and Violet. Kartana is a Grass Steel type with an absurdly high attack stat of 181. This is literally the highest attack stat of any base form Pokemon ever. At base 109 speed, Kartana was able to outspeed many relevant threats in the Sword and Shield VGC meta, such as Urshifu, Rillaboom, Landorus, and Entei. Despite Kartana's HP and special defense being low, and having a 4x fire weakness, with an Assault Vest and some EV investment, Kartana can actually take some hits. Since its attack is already so high, and its ability will grant a +1 boost to its attack after knocking out another Pokemon, Kartana can afford to split some of its EVs into HP or special defense. This is the nice thing about special defense being the lower of your 2 defensive stats, as you can boost it with an Assault Vest item, but the same cannot be said about physical defense. Overall, Kartana's highs are so high, and its lows are still high enough to be workable, allowing for it to thrive in the doubles format, unlike any other Glass Cannon Pokemon in Sword and Shield. The next Glass Cannon, Chien-Pao, is one of the 4 Treasures of Ruin, a legendary quartet with a unique set of abilities. All of these abilities have the same effect just for different stats, which is passively lowering a given stat of all surrounding Pokemon by 25%. The stat that Chien-Pao's Sword of Ruin ability lowers is Defense. While this does affect your ally, it also affects both opponents. This increases the damage output of not only Chien-Pao, but Chien-Pao's partner. With a blistering 135 speed stat, tied with Fluttermane, Koraidon, and Miraidon, and a very respectable base 120 attack stat, Chien-Pao hits very hard and allows for its partner to hit hard. It commonly uses both the Focus Sash and the move Protect for survivability, paired with strong allies like Dragonite, Rillaboom, and Urshifu. It is also one of the very few ice types in the game at all to be built like a Glass Cannon, which should be an ice type's role given how good it is offensively and how terrible it is defensively. The 4x weakness to fighting and the 5 other regular weaknesses are not enough to discount the offensive value that Chien-Pao brings to its team, making it quite successful in every Scarlet and Violet VGC format it has been legal. And that's why Glass Cannons tend to not work in VGC. If you enjoyed this video, I recommend checking out a couple similar videos I made on Pokemon that are good in singles but bad in doubles, and vice versa. Other than that, I really appreciate if you watched all the way to the end. If you want to support me and my channel, the best way to do so is just by leaving a nice comment. I recently started doing early video access for members, but other than that, I currently do not have any other perks for members, so please do not join unless you really want to support me and you are financially capable of doing so. Likes are also one of the ways in which YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves it, I would appreciate it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.